Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to one of your favorite evening debate program on Dbs Television Viewpoint. And of course, in today's edition, we will be talking with Bekwa Jerome. He is a teacher concerning issues on urban crowding, overcrowding, and what can be done to remedy the situation. Of course, he's not the first time that he is with us. He is back again, and it's always our pleasure having our guests back, as well as having you, our viewers who sacrifice out time to be informed, educated overall. Good evening to you, Mr. Bekwa, and thank you very much for coming again.
Good evening, Vanessa. It's my pleasure being here with you this evening. And I want to say a special good evening to all the televiewers out there. Thank you.
Mange Venashus, good evening and welcome as well.
Good evening, Vanessa, and good evening to our viewers. It's a pleasure being there for them and knowing that they are there for us.
It is worth noting that the climate in Douala has changed a little bit, and it's relatively cold these days, so make sure that you keep yourself warm as you get out of your home the following day. Let us take the first part of the show. Question 1. Is there anything authorities can do to solve the issue of overcrowding in Douala? Bekwa, will begin with you.
Yes, Vanessa.
Mange Venashus?
There's a lot more that the government can do, or the authorities can do.
Okay. And does this reflect a failure of the process of decentralization in Cameroon?
Effectively.
Mange Venashus?
I share the same opinion, Vanessa.
You share the same opinion. Let us take the second part of the show. Stay tuned. Overcrowding in Douala is no longer something or information that we should be telling you, but then this situation now is alarming, and today we are trying to find out whether there are certain things that authorities could do to solve the issue of overcrowding. And Bekwa, you think that there is a lot that authorities can do to remedy the situation?
Yes, Vanessa, thank you very much. And unlike I said, that the authorities, they have a lot more to do in order to solve the problem of overcrowdedness here in the Douala city, or here in this very particular urban area. It is not strange for us to know that Douala is actually being overcrowded. And when you move around all the junctions or all the carrefours around the town, you realize that it is practically impossible when you are in the haste to leave your house to your job site, or from your job site back at home. And with this, you see that a lot has to be done. But the first question should be, why the overcrowdedness? It is because the town in which we find ourselves, it is an economic center. It is a big center of activities that pushes people from right and left to make sure that they find themselves in this town in search for their daily bread. And with this, what then can we do? Those who are coming in here, it is because there are practically no way or nothing they can do rather than coming in a business center where they will be able to make life. If you look, for example, in the other regions in our country, you want to look at the industrialization of what is happening in the other region, you see that nothing is found there. And now, Douala has been overcrowded because of the different industries and companies that are found here, and people have to come in order to give in their man labor in this company in order to achieve what they can help themselves with. If you go to areas like Nkapa, Suza, Ideya, these are neighboring areas to the city of Douala. And when you go to this area, you will see that there are practically no companies that can relocate the population that is here in Douala. Now, what can the government do in order to reduce the overcrowding of the population here in Douala? One of the very first thing is that there should be roads, because where a road passes, development follows. And if the areas that accompany, that are neighbored to the city of Douala, have good access to lead to these various areas, certainly development will follow. Why? Because somebody might be thinking to open a company in Suza, or to later talk about Pekatrant and so on. But when he thinks of the state of the road, then he or she feels very discouraged to engage in such a project. Now, if you go to Peka Deset, where the Faculty of Medicine is situated, take some years behind. How was that area? And as soon as there was a little bit of possibility, that entire area has been developed. If you go towards Peka 21, where the central prison is being constructed now, you see that because the road is somehow manageable, because they are thinking of how to put the right, to construct the road, people are flowing in there. And that is how the population is gradually going down. And for it to actually subsidize, the government has a lot to do. To give powers to the area that they need the powers to do what they are able to do.
All right. Thank you very much, Bekwa Jerome, for that contribution. Mangavena Shoes, in adding to what he has said, we all know that Douala is the economic hub of Cameroon, and like he rightly said, a lot of people migrate here because there are industries all situated around, and so they are coming to offer the man labor to these industries. Away from that, what could be some of those reasons why there is overcrowding in Douala, and what can authorities do to solve the situation?
Besides being the industrial hub, like you said, it's not only for Cameroon, it is the industrial hub, the economic hub of the Central African sub-region. It is Douala, which means the economy of all these other 6 regions, they rotate around Douala. It is the economic capital of Cameroon. It is the economic, we call it the economic capital of the Central African region. It is here in Douala. Vanessa, when you the image of Douala that I had, I believe other people too had it the same, was maybe you see a very good town. The image I saw on TV, but when I had the opportunity to live in Douala, I saw completely a different thing. There are other areas in Douala here, neighborhoods in Douala here that you cannot even throw water. A neighbor, your wife washes dresses and he cannot throw water because you are practically throwing it on somebody's wall, somebody's window, or somebody's door. You see the level at which
on the way directly, where people are
actually,
yes,
so
passing.
That is to say that the level at which the population is crowded here is far beyond what we were thinking. People don't come to Douala only to work. It is also an economic capital. They come to sell and to buy. Because people leave the hinterlands, people live from other parts of the regions, people live from other parts of the country, from other countries, surrounding countries, and come to Douala to buy. It is for that same reason that we have the town of Douala so congested that we barely move, like Mr. Bekwa was saying. We barely move here, especially in rush hours. What can the authorities do to make sure that we reduce this, this kind of congestion? Vanessa, some years back, the city of Lagos in Nigeria was experiencing something more than what Douala is experiencing. And what the government did was, at the time, Lagos was the capital of Nigeria. What they simply did was, they transferred the capital from Lagos to Abuja. Just taking the institutions from Lagos to Abuja was to help decongest the city. Now, if you look at the rate at which Abuja has grown, there are discussions now to change the capital from Abuja to another locality. These are ways we can do to decongest the city of Douala. Mr. Bekwa was talking about Suza, Peka,
Kappa, and so
Idea, Peka 21, Peka Tranto. These are neighborhoods around Douala, even going towards even going through the southwest region. These are areas that we need to make use of. Let us stop this issue of giving out land to foreigners who come in to locate or to set up their industries here, whereas Cameroonians don't have where to settle. I think that the government can decide to create. They too create cities. Just give out, to have a piece of land in Douala here is very expensive. The government, instead of giving it out to a Chinese, instead of giving it out to a French or giving it out to an American businessman, tell Cameroonians that this area of land, the government has subsidized the cost and put the cost of 1 meter or 1 square meter of land. Let us put it at 10,000 francs. Within 2 years, you will discover that many people will want to migrate to that area. We can do it controlling it, because once we say it like this, the very rich people who still own houses here, they are the very people who still go and buy. We are not selling it to a rich man. Just like we are creating this low-cost housing. Low-cost housing, they end up not being low-cost housing, not being serving the purposes they are. I think the government can create residential quarters out of Douala, thereby encouraging people to live here and go and settle there. I don't think that anybody would be happy when we live in this kind of overcrowded city. Vanessa, the recent flood that we have in Douala last week or 2 weeks ago was proof of the fact that Cameroonians are already desperate where to settle. That is why the least space of land that they see, somebody is constructing on it. Whether it is on a gutter, whether it is on a drainage, somebody is constructing on it, because we don't have where to go to. I think that if the government can, in as much as we are talking of demolishing these people who are constructing on marshy areas, on all these drainage zones, these risky zones, we cannot demolish them and leave them like that. They are Cameroonians. Let us create residential quarters in the neighborhoods of Douala. Mr. Beko is talking of roads. In developed countries, you see people living like in Douala here, and they work in Boya. They get up every morning, because if we have to relocate, if we have to reduce the population of Douala, send them to Edea, send them to Sosa, send them to Pekatrant, it means they will be living there and coming to Douala. One, it will increase it would let us increase the revenue of those who are involved in intercity transport. We'll have taxes, we'll have all these other transporters, thereby adding to the the income revenue of the country. I think that if we don't do it, if we keep doing it, we'll be suffering from what we have, like the floods. When an epidemic starts, like the cholera that always at times touches us, it is because of
it spreads easily
faster, because yes, the rate at which people are, you are just you're living at the next door. There is no way we can handle waste. There is no way we can handle household refuge, because you don't have where to dispose of. Vanessa, we are already living in a city that very soon will run out of trees. Another problem will be, we are talking of climate change now, because the effect, the role that green plants play in our life, we would not have it in town here, because we don't have trees again. People are felling down every little thing in green to make sure that they construct. And that is why the city is becoming tighter every day. I think that the government can do something. Let us encourage Cameroonians in settling out of the main town. Life is not only here in Douala. In as much as we are settling out of town, that is how the town is growing. And in this way, we will facilitate, movement. We will facilitate, and we will cut down these issues like the floods, recent floods that we have. We will cut down issues like this fast spreading of disease, and we will increase the level of sanitation. Vanessa, the image I have about Douala, as I started saying, is not what I discovered when I came to Douala, because at times there are certain neighborhoods when you go to, I ask my question: is this Douala? There are certain kind of buildings that you see people living in, and you ask yourself, is this Douala? Because the image of Douala we had was maybe along Aqua, along Bonanjo, and you see those tall buildings.
No,
and you think
it's normal. No, back then when you tell somebody that you're traveling to Douala, the kind of notion or what they picture in their head is like you're flying out of the country.
Actually, because they believe that Douala, but when you see the reality of Douala, go behind those story buildings. What you see there, I was telling a friend the other day that back in my village, there are things that you don't see. You don't see this kind of things. You don't see water littering around because there is no way we can, you know, water from household. There is no way we can go. There is. Vanessa will go as far as talking about sewage, disposal of sewage. You see, it leaks along the street, and people walk on it without any problem. But then, these are things that in the village, you will never see it. You will never see it. People live, you know, you have meters away from your neighbor. If you are 10 meters, 20 meters away before you see the next house. And in that way, you can handle your waste very well. In that way, sanitation is improved. Yes, than what we have in the city.
Mr. Venatius, one thing is clear. Our authorities, they have to help us as far as the sanitation of the city is concerned. Every Thursday is set aside as keep Douala clean. Who goes out to control what? Nobody. When they say today is a lockdown to keep the city clean,
people see the
shops are closed, nothing is being done. So the people themselves are not willing to do manual labor in order to keep the surrounding clean. So what I used to say, for you, closing your shop without cleaning the surrounding of your shop, you have done nothing. So what I'm like thinking is, if every council could set in their sanitation teams to control when they come to your shop and discover whether the shop is locked or it is open. If the surrounding of your shop is not clean, you should be sanctioned for that. And as soon as they start applying these rules, you will see that the town in which we live will become a better town. But yet, one thing is that they have poisoned the minds of Cameroonians, the minds of the citizens of this country. It has been poisoned from top to bottom. It has been poisoned. There is nothing like morality again among Cameroonians, because when they come even at the level of the councils and teams are set to go in for inspections, when they go in and discover that the surroundings are not what they are expecting to be, you will see them, they will start turning their back. As they turn their back, they send their hands behind. As soon as their hands from behind are wetted, they go without checking what took them to the field.
Thank you, Mr. Bekwa. But then I had the opportunity to carry out an investigation on this very issue of, cleanup campaign days. And Mr. Bekwa, I will tell you that this is completely a different ball game, because when some of the workers or some of the traders I discussed with, they told us that the fee is that there's a particular amount that they pay to the council to take care of the sanitation of their surrounding. Now, another issue was the strategy in which councils adopt the campaign is very poor. You cannot tell people that your shops will remain closed from morning till 11 a.m. or 12 or till midday before they can open. They just take it as days in which they wash dresses in their house, they cook meant for women, they take care of their homes. Nobody, by 12 o'clock, that's when you see them coming to their job site. But what the council was supposed to do, because when I was discussing with one environmentalist around here, who was proposing something that the council could just say, you have 2 hours of activities, which means you open your shop till maybe 9 a.m., maybe 10 a.m. And from 10 a.m. to 12 midday, your shop is open. But you walk around the shop, not that you remain in the house, no. In that way, people will work, because if I'm working in my shop here, you are working in your store here, he's working like that, at least all of this environment will be clean. But then when we say that we will come in the morning, every place is closed, what am I coming to do? I remain in my house and I just come out at 11 o'clock and nothing is done. I think that if we can reorientate our citizens on this issue of cleanup campaign, I think that we will need to do something and maybe spare ourselves the trouble of this pandemic. But then, when we talk of asking them to remain at home and coming at 12 o'clock, it cannot work. It is not possible for them.
My brother, Mr. Venatius, you are clear, you are correct. But yet, if the people are given the opportunity to open their shops, there should be a follow-up. Cameroonians need follow-up. When you engage someone in an activity, there must be a follow-up. As soon as there is no follow-up, there can never be proved results.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So now, talking about councils mismanaging the way they implement this cleanup campaign and leading us back to the issue that the city is overcrowded. So does it reflect to the failure of the process of decentralization in Cameroon? Bakwa, you think that yes, it do?
Yes, it does. You know, Cameroonians are very good in writing. Writing is one thing, applying what you have written is another thing. In the African continent, Cameroon is one of the countries that has the best set of laws written, but the problem with the laws is the application of the law. Decentralization in our nation as of today is still paperwork decentralization, because powers has not been given to the rightful people to do what has to be done. In our local council areas, powers has not been given to them. Look, I am a teacher, right? Like, I want to take this example to you, that I am a teacher in a school. I have my proprietor, and my teacher needs some boxes of chalk to work with. They have complained about chalk, and I complained to the proprietor of the school. I am the head teacher of the school. The proprietor of the school does what? He does his job by giving me the chalk. And at my level, the chalk is blocked. When the chalk is blocked at my level, it hasn't reached the teachers. And when it does not reach the teachers, who are those that suffer? Those that suffer, the children. That is the same thing in this country. So when powers are given in your hands, make sure that you use the power for the purpose for which it has been given. And we are praying that the government of this country should be able to legalize the decentralization law, so much so that every local council will be able to develop his or her area without not waiting on the central government. Because as soon as this is done, the people know that the powers is in their hands. And when you fail to do what you have to do in favor of the people, when the next election comes up, you'll be bounced. So I think that one of the problems is the decentralization power that is not being put in place.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bakwa. Mange Venashus, knowing fully well that our local councils are better placed to know the immediate needs of their population, but then they cannot attain to these immediate needs due to the fact that they do not have the means, or indirectly they need to carry out the survey, collect the information and send it to the central administration to decide on what to do. They who are not in the field to say that no, this is what the people need. How does it actually reflect the failure of decentralization in causing overcrowdedness in Douala?
Actually, Vanessa, you know, each locality, Cameroon does not have an identical reality across the country. Each locality has their own specificity. Like Douala, the way development should be done in Douala is not the same way that it would be done in Yaoundé. It's not the same way that it could be done in Bamenda or maybe in the far north. When we have a centralized system of government, things cannot move the way they would have if we are supposed to give powers to the right people or to the grassroots. In fact, we are talking about to the various municipalities. You cannot expect the Minister of Housing and Town Planning in Yaoundé to sit and has a grasp. He cannot have a direct grasp of the reality of Douala like the mayor of perhaps Douala 2 or Douala 3, Douala 4 subdivision. Once you give power to the mayor of Douala 2, rather than proposing, he should give him the power to act. Because when you propose, if I don't see from your angle I cannot validate it. But if you give me the power to act, I see the need of my people, and I stand the position where I can address this situation. The way I will act is different from the way you will act. What we have in Cameroon is mayors simply propose. One, they don't have the financial autonomy to act. Two, they don't take decisions on their own. Vanessa, when we have a country where everything is politicized, where positions are political compensations that are given to people, you don't work for the good of the people, you work to satisfy those who keep you in that particular position. Mr. Bekwe was talking about something of electing. We have representatives, but are they elected representatives? We take, for example, the city of Douala, that is our case study for today. We have the city mayor. Was he elected by the people, or he was given to the people of Douala? If he was given to the people of Douala, the reality in the ground is he would not see what is happening here, because he has two masters to serve. Those who gave him to Douala and the Douala people whom he has to administer. Now, those people he's ministering to, he would not serve them well, because you have little influence on him, on his being there, than those who brought him. Those who brought him can decide to put an end to that position. And that's why you find that it is difficult for us to have decision taken faster on the reality on the ground. Because if the mayor of Douala 2, for example, had the opportunity to say that, let us extend this town, now the council will extend this town to this level. Take, for example, Douala 5 subdivision that goes right up and shares boundary with the Encamp division in Yabasi. If Douala 5 can decide and say, all those who are living in Bonamosadi, we, the Douala 5 council, we would extend the neighborhood. Let us keep going. Those who would go right up to this level, like I was saying, the meter of land will cost this, will reduce it to this. If Douala 5 council has that ability, you will discover that that is how the town will continue expanding. And they will reduce the concentration that we have in the central town. I think that let us live in a country where the municipal representatives are those who are elected. Those who the people have a right to those you have to give an account of your service to the people and not to the master. Yes, and not to the master, because when it is political compensation, they are compensative the way you work for the party and not for the people. So I think that we should migrate, we should emerge, we should grow from that political standpoint and look at the reality. In that way, decentralization. Remember, we are talking about decentralization from 1996, 24 years after. We are not able to implement it because we have not mastered the concept actually. 24 years after. No,
Mr. Mange, when you say the concept has not been mastered, I would say no. It is, the problem is simple. It is greed and power confiscation. People do not want to share powers. People do not want to liberate themselves so that some other persons can come in and prove what they are capable of doing. This thing cannot be above the government of Cameroon. It is greed. It is greed. Punishing those who are at the grassroots level. Because when you look at the style of our country, it is that he who is up keeps going up and he who is down remains down. So that is what I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, so like I was saying, Vanessa, so I think that we should be able to apply because we talk about this decentralization since 1996, we would have been far gone. We would not have been where we are. And if we keep marching as we are, we're already in September. Since 2020, we're already in September. There are every chances that we may enter 2021 with nothing going on. So I think that is high time we actualize concepts like this decentralization rather than letting it remain on paper.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your point of view. And adding to what you are saying, I think that other regions also benefit the aspect of having at least one or two industries in those regions, and will be able to avoid this urban migration and overcrowding the city of Douala. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of today's edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to DBS Television. Do have a good night. See you tomorrow, God willing.